Right side to the 10 to the 5. Touchdown! 6. Going to the hoop. Puts it up. Puts it in. A fantastic play.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second edition of the Magnolia Fields Maroon and White edition. We're going to be talking all things Mississippi State football today. I'm Tanner Marler. He's Cody Blazak. And Cody, let's just go ahead and dive in. On tap today, we have got the Mississippi State football schedule preview. And without further ado, jumping into Eastern Kentucky. First matchup ever between these schools. Eastern Kentucky, obviously, at the FCS level. That one's going to be played in Starkville, 5 p.m. kick for the home opener. Cupcake week, you take what you can.
Right around the corner, and how do I put this? We say cupcake week, but I'm not sure you can always be sure of that.
Yeah.
I listen, brand new head coach. Didn't have a great season last year. Looks like we've got a better roster than last year, or State has a better roster than last year. And as you can see, it's a 29.5-point spread. I think State gets the job done. I'm not sure they cover that 29.5-point spread.
Yeah, 29.5 is a lot. I mean, a lot.
And the reason I say it, cupcake week is one thing, but like you also got to realize that there are first game jitters and a new head coach, a bunch of new players. Your quarterback is a transfer quarterback. So, I mean, yeah, I think they get the job done.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park like most week ones are.
Well, and here's the thing, too, Cody, is that week there's still going to be a lot of position battles going on. I look specifically at the slot. I think that's going to wind up being a young guy's role, unless Kelly Arcari takes over some duties in the slot. But I think he could. He's plenty fast enough. But I think they're going to want him on the outside. I look at like some freshmen like J.J. Harrell, a Braylon Burnside, guys that can come in and really do some damage from that slot position. But the biggest position I think that's going to be up for grabs week one is the running back slot. Seth Davis been ruled out for this season after the ACL tear late last year. Don't know yet, really haven't heard any word whether that's kind of still being rehabbed or whether it's something else that's going to keep him out for this season. But the good news is he'll be able to get a medical red shirt for it, still maintain the eligibility. But, yeah, Seth Davis, who everybody expected to kind of be the bell cow back for this State squad this year, going to be out for the season. So who do you have, Cody, taking that running back spot, RB1 in week one?
I mean, you would hope the top guy. I don't have a list of this in front of me right now, but the running back, put it this way, I think the running back's going to be big, but I don't think that's the main point of concern for this offense. I think it'll be a factor, but I really think I'm not going to say an air raid like we've seen here at the past, but I think you're going to see that ball in the air quite a bit.
I don't know. I think that because when you look at Lebby's offense at Oklahoma, a lot of it was predicated on the success of the run game. There was a lot of RPO. There is a lot of space and pace to the outside guys, but the offensive line and the run game really anchored that offense at Oklahoma. And for that reason, I think we're going to see a by committee approach, at least in week one, until a true starter emerges.
Which is where I was kind of headed with that. It's not necessarily that you're not going to see a lot of the ball on the ground because of the offense, but because you don't have that guy. With Seth Davis gone, that eliminates your front runner. So,
yeah,
when you don't have a clear-cut favorite at that one spot in the depth chart, sometimes you have to change the game plan a little bit.
Yeah, and you go out and you get it. If you're Mississippi State, you get who was supposed to be the number one running back in the transfer portal. That winds up not working out. Then you go after Utah State's Davon Booth. Now, I think that is an interesting case for RB1, is Booth came from Utah State, had a very, very, very good season for them last year. 2023 All-Academic Mountain West. I look at his junior season at Utah State, started 7 of 12 games, rushed for 805 yards. I think this is a guy that can really give you a much-needed boost. But in the same breath, I look at somebody like a Johnny Daniels, who came from Colin, is the type of player that Mississippi State has had a lot of success with. Just in recent years, those JUCO guys really get into Starkville and a lot of times wreak havoc. He's played high-level football. He was in NJCAA All-Region in 2023, the first commit for Jeff Levy. So when Jeff Levy came in, Johnny Daniels was one of the first guys, was the first guy he signed. And then you still got Jeff Pittman. So I think between those three, you've got a really solid stable in the backfield that can do some damage in week one.
I was kind of thinking Jeffrey Pittman before you got into him. A veteran who hasn't seen a lot of time here. He's a senior.
Runs the ball hard.
Yeah, runs the ball hard. He saw 11 games last year, so it's not like he rode the bench the entire year. Only had 54 carries, but you wonder if he'll be maybe not the feature back, but a back that sees enough playing time to take the load off of that feature back.
And a big guy. There's also Kevon Lee still hanging around. Penn State transfer. Everybody has been waiting on Kevon Lee to break out. Maybe this is the year he does it. We'll see. On into week 2, hitting the road, and that is a late kick out in Tempe, Arizona against Arizona State. I've got Mississippi State taking the win in this one. Personally, I think they're going to be kind of riding a little bit of a high. I don't think Arizona State's going to be a very good football team this year, so I've got Mississippi State starting off 2-0.
Yeah, week 1 to me is kind of like a glorified spring game in a sense, where probably should win it, and there'll probably be some things that you don't usually do just to get things going, figure out who your starters are. But yeah, week 2, they should be at 2-0 at this point.
Yeah, and ESPN's got this one as pretty much a toss-up, 50.9% chance for Mississippi State to take the win here. I think it's a little higher for Mississippi State. I think that the physicality side of things, and they do return a lot of the defensive line from last year. So I look at that and I'm like, I think Mississippi State, unless Arizona State comes back with a ridiculous offensive line, could live in the backfield that night and really kind of cause some havoc. With the addition of some guys like Brandon Jennings off the edge, DeMonte Russell is back, Trevion Williams is back. I think they can really do some damage at the line of scrimmage in week 2. So I've got them taking the win.
Yeah, Arizona State was not good last year. They were 3-9. Let's be a little bit honest about it. But State wasn't great either last year. They weren't 3-9 bad, but they weren't far behind.
They were bad.
And this is a program that has had 3 different coaches in the past 3 years, essentially. And not essentially. That's what it is. So it's there's a lot up in the air, and I think there's a lot of possibilities that can happen with this team. But I don't want to say the first couple games of your season are a cakewalk, but they're pretty close to it. These are games that for an SEC school,
you should be winning these 2.
Yes, it shouldn't be a question of it.
You should be winning these 2. On into week 3, Toledo. Mississippi State, again, according to ESPN, a 77.4% chance to win. I think that's right on the money. Toledo, not a very historically good team, has been good in spurts. I think that early in the season, Toledo will be looking to find themselves. I think this is really the last week for Mississippi State to find themselves in this 2024 season. So I think Mississippi State takes the win in that one. Night kick in Starkville, 6:30 p.m. I think Davis Wade could be rocking, especially if State comes into that 2-0. I think Toledo really going to have to surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, they've had solid seasons the past couple of years.
They've put out some really good players over the years.
I mean, they have improved since 2021, where they finished 7-6. In 2022, they finished 9-5, and last year, 23, they finished 11-3.
Yeah, really good G5 team.
So, I mean, give them a little bit of credit.
Yeah, really good G5 team.
They're only one regular season loss came in week 1 to Illinois. They lost by 2.
Yeah.
And
now,
then,
Illinois was not a world beater last year by any means, but still a good team.
Yeah, and then the last 2 games of the season, conference championship, lost to Miami of Ohio 23-14, and they lost the bowl game to Wyoming 16-15. So they lost 3 games, but 2 of them were by 2 points or less.
Yeah.
But once again, it's a whole different beast when you come into the SEC. Once again, this should not really even be a game in the sense of the word with Mississippi State.
That's Saturday night in Starkville. It's a night game. If Mississippi State comes into that one again 2-0, I think Davis Way is going to be rocking. Going to be tough for Toledo coming out of there with a win. We've got State starting off then 3-0.
And it gets a little tough.
It gets a little tougher from there. On into Florida, 11 a.m., September the 21st. Now, here's the thing with this Florida team, Cody. The barometer for them is week 1 against Miami. I'm not high on Florida right now. Not at all. I personally think this could be Billy Napier's last year in the swamp. He doesn't have Anthony Richardson. Travis Etienne Jr., I believe, is gone. Where are you going to get your production from? I think that if Florida goes out and gets trampled in week 1 against Miami, I think this is one of State's few very winnable SEC matchups, especially with it being at home.
Well, a lot of it is where are they going to get the production they need, but it also doesn't help when you have a schedule that looks like
and
Florida's.
that's the thing.
I mean,
if you're Florida, you're looking at this Starkville matchup as a chance to grab an SEC win in a brutal schedule.
I look at this schedule and I say to myself, as Florida, there are only 2 games on that schedule that you can chalk up as wins. One of them, week 3 to Samford.
Yeah.
One of them, week 6 to UCF. And I'm not entirely
sure on UCF. That's an
in-state
KJ
thing.
Jefferson. But that's the thing. You got KJ Jefferson under center. You've got Gus Malzahn calling the shots. UCF is not a pushover at the G5 level. I think they could very well lose that one. And I think this is Napier's last year in Gainesville for a multitude of reasons. One of them being I do not see a lot of wins on this schedule. And how many years can Florida fans go without racking up some wins?
Yeah, it's tough luck, honestly. I mean, you play 2 top 25 non-conference teams in Miami and Florida State, and then you have to deal with the SEC. And we can be honest, not every SEC team is great, but this is a rough schedule. A&M, State, Tennessee, Kentucky, Texas, LSU, and Ole Miss.
And that's Florida's.
And that, yes. So
yeah,
this is a game to Mississippi State and Florida. I don't want to call it their Super Bowl, but this is going to be one of those games where they're not projected to have a lot of conference wins. This one matters to them.
This one matters. This one is huge for Mississippi State because the very next week, and right now I think I've got Florida as a toss-up, by the way.
I do too.
Until I see what they look like week 1, I'm not going to say what I think on this game. We're going to chalk it up as a win for now.
I'll chalk it up as a win for now because it's in Starkville.
Because it's in Starkville.
If it's in Florida, I give it to Florida.
I agree. On into the Valley of Death. The grueling part of this schedule starts with a afternoon kind of window game, 2:30 to 3:30 in Austin. Playing Texas. Oof.
You open the SEC not with an easy game by any means, but boy, once you get through week 1 with the SEC, it gets brutal. You get Texas,
State plays, and let's go ahead and just get this statement out of the way. I think State has arguably the toughest schedule out of any SEC team outside of Florida.
No, I completely agree. But I mean, you get last year, if the 12-team format had been implemented, State gets 4 playoff teams from the SEC. And I think it's a little higher for Florida, but nonetheless, yeah, you start with Texas, you get a guy like Quinn Ewers returning, you get a couple of receivers.
Now
to
Texas running back room has been riddled, but they'll find somebody. And Quinn Ewers is still the quarterback.
They'll find someone, and on top of the fact, you got some receivers from the portal that are going to help. And I'll say them because I followed him a lot last year. But Isaiah Bond, you had a not so great quarterback, at least in the air, in the first half of the season with Jalen Milroe, and now you got an arm like Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Quinn Ewers, I think, has got the best arm talent in college football right now. It's just ridiculous. So, obviously, we've got State losing that one. The last time these teams matched up, or maybe not the last time, but one of the biggest memories obviously being the Cotton Bowl in 99 and Jackie Sherrill's antics around that one. It'll be kind of cool to relive some of that. But, yeah, I've got State losing that one in a big way on the road. Going to push them to, if we're counting Florida as a win, 4-1. And then we get into a bye, and that's going to be tough. We're going to talk a little bit after this break about the other side of that bye. Stick with us. We'll be right back here at the Richard Schwartz and Associates studio, signing off for just a little bit of time. Tanner Marlin, Cody Blazak, stick with us.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, you know who to call. Call me. Remember, one call, that's all.
Welcome back here to the Magnolia Fields podcast. Tanner Marler, Cody Blazak. Before the break, we had Mississippi State at 4-1, losing to Texas, heading into a bye week. After that bye week, 4-1.
4-1 is shaky.
At best, 4-1, probably 3-2. Then, again, you really get into the valley of death here with this schedule. You're going to Georgia on October the 12th. That game could be anywhere from 2:30 to 7, and that's a night game in Athens. I feel bad for what Georgia's going to do to Mississippi State.
Yeah. They're really, when it comes to these powerhouse teams, I mean,
Chalk it up.
like Georgia and Texas, where Georgia arguably should have been in last year, and whether you think they should have been in or out, they were that number 5 team.
Chances are they'll be in this year.
Yeah, I don't even think chances. I think it's
they're gonna
sure
be in
enough
this
they're
year.
going to be in. They're in the SEC. I think it's for sure Georgia and Texas are going to be in. But Kirby Smart has put that program in such a strong direction. It's hard to see them not making it at least 5 times in the next 7 years with a couple of national championships. This is not going to be a pretty game by any means.
No. So Mississippi State then moving to 4-2.
3-3, 4-2.
3-3,
In that
4-2,
realm.
In that realm. Then you get Texas A&M in Starkville. This is a matchup that Mississippi State has really owned the last few years, whether they've been bad or good. Now, obviously, last year, get it shellacked against A&M on the road. You get them back in Starkville this year, but I think that the year one still kind of playing out. I think by that point, and I also think that the new coaching staff at Texas A&M know what they're doing.
Yeah, I think they know what they're doing, but anytime you get a new coaching staff, I don't think anything's sure.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying A&M is going to be bad and they're not going to win this game, but what I am saying is
it's a winnable. I think it's close to a winnable game. I still think State's going to lose.
I think State's going to lose. I think they would lose by a lot more if this was being played
In College Station.
Yes, but whenever you have that first season as a new head coach, you're trying to get everything straight. You don't necessarily have all your players. I know it's a little different with the transfer portal, but it's still not easy. It's going to take some time. They might still be a good team.
They've got all the talent in the world.
Yeah, but you're going to have one of those games as a new head coach that you lose that you probably should have won.
Yeah.
And it might be this game for Texas A&M. I don't think it will be, but
No. I've got them losing that one, moving to 4-3 or 3-4, right through there.
4-3 optimistically.
4-3 optimistically. Then you host Arkansas, October 26th. I don't have a lot of faith in Sam Pittman this year, but that new look offense is kind of scary. Taylon Green is a phenomenal player. Having him under center is going to be game-changing. If Arkansas continues on the path that they've been going, I think this will be Sam Pittman's last year in Fayetteville, which kind of tough to watch. I like Sam Pittman.
It's sad to me. I like Sam Pittman.
I love Sam Pittman. But I still think that one being in Starkville gives State a fighting chance. I've got them losing a close one, though.
I think this one could go.
I don't think the State defense is going to be able to withstand the SEC slate.
And I agree to an extent. These are the two teams that are projected to finish 14 and 15 in the SEC. So,
yeah,
it might be a good game because of that.
I mean, look at last year.
Yeah, I mean,
last year was a close game. It was miserable to watch, but it was a close game.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think this is another one where State just can't pull it out. It feels like if they are, just because of the history of Jeff Lebby, it's going to be a team where they put up 1,000 points a game, but they allow 2,000 a game. So
yeah, I mean Coleman Hutzler, he's unproven. It's unproven. The Mississippi State defensive coordinator in his first year as a defensive coordinator, coming over from Alabama, obviously a really good defense there last year, a really good linebacker unit where he was a linebackers coach. But it's just unproven, and until we really get into the grind of it, I can't say for sure that defense is going to carry through SEC play. So I've got them losing that one as well. On into the final non-conference game of the season for Mississippi State, UMass in Starkville. That one on my birthday, November 2nd, 3:15 p.m. kick. State takes that one, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a sure enough, you should win all of your non-con games in UMass, Toledo, Arizona State, and Eastern Kentucky. Unfortunately, I do think there's a possibility you drop one of them. If you drop any of them, it's
Arizona State or Toledo.
Arizona State or Toledo. You should have this one under wraps. And you talked about Death Valley. Just wait until after this.
Yeah. I mean, it's just absolutely brutal. You get done playing UMass and you hit the road to Knoxville for a night game. That's just rough. That's just rough.
It is rough. And what's even worse, at least to me, your final 3 games of the season are to number 15 in Tennessee in the preseason rankings, 11 Missouri, and then the Egg Bowl with number 6 Ole Miss. That's not a fun way to end the season.
No. I've got them losing at Knoxville. That's just brutal. A night game in Knoxville. I got them losing by a lot. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a tough
this is not a
SEC
knock.
slate.
This is not a knock on what Jeff Lebby's doing in Starkville. I think he's going to be a great guy for the job personally. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. This year one's not going to be pretty, I don't think, just because of the depth of the SEC. On into Missouri. Again, like you said, number 11 team. I think they're a dark horse in the SEC, period. They return a lot of talent, and I think Eli Drinkwitz is a great coach.
He's a dude that's very hard not to like.
He is. Afternoon kick. It's just tough. It's just tough. And we'll dive into that one a little bit more right here after this break. Stay with us. We'll be right back here on the Magnolia Fields podcast.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, you know who to call. Call me. Remember, one call, that's all.
Welcome back to the Magnolia Field Studios, brought to you by Richard Schwartz and Associates. One call, that's all.
Welcome back into the Magnolia Fields podcast. Before the break, we dove a little bit into Mississippi State's Missouri matchup. That one on November 23rd in Starkville, hosting the preseason ranked number 11 team. My personal dark horse for the SEC in general. I think they're going to be a unsung buzzsaw.
They are a team that I have what I would call other other allegiances in the SEC. This is a team that I would take over them, that I would like to win. You know how cool it would be to see Missouri just run through
Look,
the SEC this year?
Every like 5 to 6 years, Missouri puts together some wickedly good team.
Well, not only because it's fun to watch a team that kind of comes out of nowhere, but like we said, it's hard not to like Eli Drinkwitz.
It is. I like him. I like him.
And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but they come in looking strong this season. I hope they have somewhat of a strong season, but unfortunately, that means that it's probably going to be another loss for State.
Going to be at the peril of Mississippi State. Then on into the big one, the matchup everybody talks about every year for the bragging rights here in the Magnolia State. Ole Miss, preseason ranked number 6 team. I think Ole Miss makes a playoff this year, unfortunately, for the Mississippi State listeners. I just don't. I don't see how State comes out of that one with a win unless they pull something miraculous.
Well,
I think Jeff Lebby kind of operates as a secret weapon in this because he knows Kiffin's tendencies and stuff like that, and he's been in that kind of building. But it's just, it's just a really, really good Ole Miss team.
Well, two things. It is a good Ole Miss team, but also they might have the easiest SEC schedule in the nation.
That's ridiculous.
Which it is what it is. But I will say, for the sake of this, I will call Ole Miss a loss. But as we know, rivalry games are different.
Yeah.
Anything can happen on any given year. So, and I'm not saying that State is, at least on paper, a better team than Ole Miss, but when it comes to a rivalry game, end of the season, and it might be a situation where if Ole Miss loses that game, you can say goodbye to the college football playoffs. Yeah. And that's some extra motivation.
Absolutely. There's nothing that Jeff Lebby and Mississippi State would like to do more than spoil Ole Miss's season. That kind of wraps up the game-by-game preview. I personally, until I see Florida play, I've got to chalk that one up as a loss. I've got Mississippi State 4-8.
I think you're looking at a floor of an absolute worst floor of 3-9 and a ceiling of 6-6, where
you got Florida and Arkansas. Maybe you squeak out A&M.
And maybe A&M, but the 4 non-cons for sure, and then Florida or Arkansas, maybe both. But even, I mean, like I said, Ole Miss is always a toss-up.
Yeah,
and I think that for all rivalries. Michigan, Ohio State, you never know. Bama, Auburn, all of it. You just don't ever know. That's the fun of it.
Yeah. Real quick, we've got about 2 minutes left here in the show. We used to host a show called The Dudes on 91.1 WMSV. We always did X Factors. Give me your X Factor out of the gate for this State's squad. Just all season long.
All season, so not for Eastern Kentucky.
Not for Eastern Kentucky. We'll dive into that next episode.
I think you're going to look at, I'm not going to give you an individual player. I'll give you the wide receiver room, mainly because there are a couple of young guys in Braylon Burnside and JJ that are coming in that could be impact players and get some reps under their belt early in their freshman year, maybe progress throughout their careers. But I'm looking at those guys mainly because in high school they were electric. They were fun to watch and they were really good. Hopefully they can replicate that for the Bulldogs. And I don't know, maybe you got some strength in the offense going forward throughout the season and hopefully something to build on for next year.
Yeah. I'm going to give you one name, Isaac Smith, 4-star safety out of Itawamba. I think really could step into that role this year and be a leader for this Bulldog defense. So keep your eyes on Isaac Smith in the defensive backfield, a place where State needs some improvement.
We're a couple weeks away.
We are. We're right here on the cusp of it.
Week 0 is next week. College football. Week 1 is the week after. It's time we all get excited for.
Best
time
bumping.
of the year.
I'm hyped. I'm ready. I'm so ready.
I'm excited, but
I'm buzzing.
We'll see how it is for the Bulldogs of Mississippi State.
Fortunately, I don't think it's going to be great.
Hey, you never know.
That's all the time we've got. As always, thanks for joining here on the Magnolia Fields podcast. I'm Tanner Marler. He's Cody Blazak. We'll catch you guys next time.